Whilst the rest of the world seems to be going through dramatic economic changes, one thing's for sure, the Vietnamese economy is at a stable growth. With the added prosperity, the geographical wonders, and amazing cultures, this makes Vietnam an attractive location to choose to settle down long term. What I love about Vietnam is that the cost of living is directly proportionate to your lifestyle. In comparison to Western countries, where living is pretty much just turned into surviving, I feel like since we've been living in Da Nang, if there's months where we do want to save a little bit more, we're just having to cut back on luxuries rather than pick and choose what bill to prioritize or not prioritize this month. I know for some people right now that in itself is a luxury, and I do recognize that. So, to get the best understanding of living in Da Nang, we've broken down the cost of living into categories. Starting with rent. I'm not going to go into this too much because we had another video where we're going through the full process of how to rent in Da Nang, where to find somewhere to live, and sort of the different prices that you can find. So go ahead and check that out if you haven't already. But I will briefly say that on average, you will spend between £350 to £450 on a 1 to 2 bedroom apartment. This is in or near communities where expats are living. You can rent as low as £250 for a really nice 1 bedroom apartment, or even lower for a studio. And the great thing is, these prices are including some type of cleaning service as well as Wi-Fi. When it comes to your other bills, in our 2 bedroom apartment, we spent about £30 for water and electricity per month. Of course, that water is not drinkable, so we order these big containers of water through our building management. Super simple, we just text them asking them to bring the water up, and it costs us about £2 per container. In our last apartment, it was £1, so it just depends how much your building management will charge you for it. Now, one thing to know when you're renting is that 99.9% of places will not include your AC bill in your electricity bill. This will be charged separately, but you will know what your price per kilowatt hour is before you choose to rent. To give you some insight, we have 3 AC units in our apartment, and during the hottest month of the year, we have spent about £200 on AC. In comparison, when my mum and my sister visited, they stayed in a studio apartment for 2 weeks and they paid £49, so that would be about £98 for the 4 weeks. I do also want to add that in both of these scenarios, the AC is running 24 hours. Don't get me wrong, it's got much cooler now, so we don't really keep it on 24 hours a day now, and therefore the bill is reflective of that. Moving on to my next category, food. Without a doubt, buying groceries and cooking your stuff at home is in most cases the same cost as if you're going to eat out. I'm going to split this category in two. Part 1, Vietnamese food. If you choose to eat Vietnamese food, your cost per month will be on the low side of the scale. All the prices I'll be mentioning are eating out prices. For breakfast, there is hundreds of spots where you can have a yummy mee quang bowl for as low as £1, or a bowl of pho, which ranges in between £1 to £1.50, depending on where you go. Moving on to lunch, you cannot live in Vietnam and not give in to the banh mi crave at least once a week, or if you're me, at least a few times a week. Banh mi is a warm, if done right, baguette with fillings of roast or grilled pork, beef, chicken, or veggies. A normal size banh mi is 30k, which is about £1. More recently, we discovered you can get banh mi quae, which is like a miniature size one, but it's filled with shredded meat and pate for as low as 20p. And it's so tasty. If you don't fancy that, there's a multitude of rice or noodle dishes to pick from, all from £1 or under. So to sum that up, you'd be spending at most £3.50, let's say £4.50 if you choose to include your drink, per day if you choose to eat Vietnamese food. Let me remind you that is eating out. The total of that would come to £135 a month. I know I'm not exaggerating when I say that that is an amazing option to have. To be able to eat out and not have to worry about cooking, but rather get lost in a menu full of 20 types of noodle dishes is a problem I gladly signed up for. If we shift over to part 2 of this category, let's talk about Western food. The beauty of living in Da Nang, Vietnam, is how insanely diversified the culture is. There is not many Western dishes that you could suggest to me right now that I couldn't find or couldn't get, despite the fact that I live in Southeast Asia. For a Western breakfast, so we're talking pancakes, eggs Benedict, full English, avocado on toast, filled croissants, and so on, you will pay between 100k to 130k, which is about £3.50 to £4.50 on average. You can, however, find little gem places that will still charge you as low as £2 to £2.50 for a Western breakfast. But you do have to know where these are, because the likelihood is that the reason they're charged so low is that they are out of expat areas. Western lunch options are also just super overwhelming. Like mentioned in our last video, there are over 50 unique Western restaurants within a 10-minute walk of where we live. And if you're craving a BLT sandwich, or dare I say a burger and chips, then your lunch will cost you between £5 to £6.50 on average. Even though this is still cheaper than in the UK, where most lunches will cost you about £10 plus a meal, it's still pretty pricey compared to Vietnamese food. Similarly, dinner is up there again, with a meal costing on average between £6.50 to £8.50. We sometimes love to have a slow-baked pizza on the ocean front, and this costs about £6 for a large. If you wanted to spend more, you definitely can. The other night, me and Aaron had a date night at a really nice rooftop restaurant where my meal alone was £18. The total for our bill, which included starters, 2 main meals, 2 cocktails, was about £65. If I was to compare that to similar fine dining date night we've had in the past in the UK, that's about a third of the price. If you wanted to compare that with grocery shopping, we have an entire video on grocery shopping, so definitely go check that out if you wanted to compare prices. Next, let's briefly just go into healthcare for a second. Being expats, we obviously have insurance, so the insurance that we choose to go with is Safety Wing. Safety Wing is not sponsoring this video, but I do suggest you go check them out because they do have a large variety of different insurance plans that you can get on. When we first arrived in Da Nang, after 2 weeks of being here, I ended up getting some dentist treatment, which I had been waiting in the UK for over 3 months to get an appointment. Just to give you some background, it took me exactly 24 hours to get an appointment here, and I could have got one earlier. I generally didn't have the time. All it took was a quick text on WhatsApp to say that I need to have an emergency appointment, and they literally asked to book me in within the next 2 hours. I went in the next day, and honestly, the experience I had was beyond my wildest imagination. I received better treatment than any dentist I had been to in the UK. The treatment that I received, I got quoted £2,250 for in the UK, and I spent £320 altogether in Da Nang. And truthfully, if you ask me, I honestly received better care than I would have in the UK anyway. If you don't have insurance, I will give you some idea of prices. So a GP appointment will cost you about £17. An emergency appointment, £55. I know this because we obviously checked before coming here, and we've now recently sort of updated what the prices would be like. These prices are based on the hospital that we live closest to, which is Vidmec. If you have kids, healthcare here is going to surprise you even more. Our current pediatrician that we use, we have on Zalo, which is a good sort of like WhatsApp of Asia. And I can text him at any point during a 24-hour period and say that I need him to come see Kylo, and he will be at my house within 2 to 3 hours, I'd say. I do not need to tell you that that is absolutely not what would happen if I was in the UK. I ended up staying in a hospital in the emergency with Kylo for 11 hours and had to basically force a leave because nobody was seeing us. Not going to go into that, but that is something that I never want to put my child through again, ever. As always, if you guys have any specific question in regards to healthcare, please put them in the comments below, because a lot of expats watch my videos. So sometimes it might be that one of them will know the answer and will respond to you. I'm conscious that I want to create a space where we can share our knowledge and learn from each other. The next category I want to talk about is transport. If you move in here, you're obviously going to need to get around. The best and easiest way to get around is a motorbike, because that is generally just what dominates the road in Vietnam. You can buy your own motorbike. You can go on Facebook and easily find somebody either selling one, or you can find a motorbike shop and you can buy one brand new. The cost to rent a motorbike depends on what engine size that you get, but the one that we currently use costs us £65 a month. We fill up about once a week, and I do want to say that we do travel a lot. Like, me and Aaron honestly go out about 3 dates a week, and even when we do go out, we go quite far. Like, we explore waterfalls, we go to different beaches. So we fill up a tank once a week. That tends to do the job, and every time we fill, it's about £2.50 for a full tank. When there's time where I'm traveling with Kylo alone, or he's traveling with Kylo alone, we will get a Grab. Now, Grab is absolutely fantastic. You can book yourself a taxi, a Grab, and it will honestly arrive at your door before you even get to the stairs. Again, complete luxury, I know, but I have to mention it because I literally just can't. I still can't get over how good it is. To give you ideas of the prices, a taxi or a Grab from here to the airport, which is about 15 minutes away, will be about 100k, and that is about £3.30. A little tip, if you're arriving for the first time in Da Nang, do not get a taxi from the airport because they charge us $15. And now that we know, it's literally £3 to get to where we live. Don't do what we did. Walk straight through past the drivers and you'll see a sign for Grab. Just go and wait for somebody there. Or your best option is to just download the app before you ever arrive in the country. And then that way you can just book it before you've even gone out of the airport. You can also rent cars, and I will link below somebody that we would recommend, and a car, depending again which one you pick, but a normal family car will cost you around £20 to £25 a day. Let's go through to our miscellaneous category. You're going to obviously need to have a phone or to talk to people on the phone. We currently use Viettel as our phone provider. We get 4 gigabytes of internet a day and unlimited calls within Vietnam. And for some reason, we did manage to call out to Bangkok the other day, but it doesn't say that on our plan, so I'm not really sure what happened there. But they charge us £5 a month for that contract. A little tip, if you're going to go get a phone contract, make sure that you bring your passport, because they'll need to take a picture of you. And also make sure that you bring the phone that you will need your SIM put into, because they'll do it there for you and they'll also check it for you. So just, remember that. The last category I want to talk about is entertainment. This will definitely vary on what your lifestyle is like. I want to focus on family first because that's where I know my stuff most. The options for family entertainment in Da Nang are insane. There is so much to do. If you want to take your kid to an indoor playground, well, that's going to cost you about £3. But this indoor playground is going to be absolutely insane, and they can go in all day. And if you go during the week, it's probably going to cost about £2.50. To make this as informative as I can, I'm going to put a list on the side here about things that you can do on the beach and other activities and what their prices are currently at. So go ahead and pause that if you wanted to have a read through. If you're a drinker and you enjoy entertainment, say at a beach lounge or even a nightclub, a beer will cost you between 20 to 40k. That is depending on where you go, but mostly 40k even if you are on the beach. Whilst a cocktail or a mixed drink will cost you between 100 to 150k. Most likely 150k if you are on the beachfront or on a rooftop terrace. Soft drink and non-alcoholic drinks are between 10 to 30k, so that's really, really affordable. If you enjoy going for dates, then something like a cinema date will cost you £2.50 for the nicest seats that you can have in the cinema, which is like this little love boxes. It's like a massive sofa basically at the back of the cinema. I couldn't film inside the cinema, but me and Aaron enjoy this a lot because it's so comfortable and they're really cheap. Also, why wouldn't you go when popcorn literally costs you 20p? Some of the tourist attractions might cost you a little bit more, but still within a very reasonable range. Again, I'm going to put a price list just on the side here of the majority of tourist attractions within Da Nang that you can do and what the prices are. So go ahead and pause that if you wanted to have a read. I hope this video has given you guys some type of insight into what the cost of living is like in Da Nang, and I hope that I have answered the majority of your questions. But if I haven't, please go ahead and comment what your question is, and I'll try and answer them individually. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and please don't forget to subscribe. See you guys next week.